engine. I'm afraid I'm not able to pronounce correctly the name of the next presenters, Italy engine. You are from Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, and you are very well a scholar. But once again, I invite you to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank
Please,
you.
you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I will also try to share my screen to see if it's okay. All participants.
It's okay. We can see you. We can hear. I can see you. Can you hear and see us?
Okay. Yes, there is no
Okay,
problem.
so,
Just I'm
no?
trying to share my screen. While I can't. Yes, I can. I can. Sorry, it's my mistake. I
Okay,
can.
it's okay. Fine.
I can share. Oops. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you can see, I am from Galatasaray University, from Turkey. I studied journalism at Galatasaray University. Then I did my master and my PhD in France. And my PhD was the emergence of the LGBTIQ public sphere in Turkey with the analysis of an LGBTIQ magazine, Chaos GL. And since I'm working on LGBTIQ related issues, gender, of course, journalism, gender-based journalism, hate speech, and the public sphere, the presence of minority groups, let's say, especially in public sphere. And today I will present you the first step of a research that I will continue to do. How and why feminists use the podcast area in Turkish. Yes. I will talk a bit about the methodology. But before the quantitative findings, I want to talk about the qualitative findings because sometimes I cannot have enough time to talk about that, and I think this is an important part, maybe that can permit us to discuss later also. One of my main questions was if there is any interaction between podcasts. I mean, if a podcast give place to another podcast to educate other women to make their podcasts, etc. And also, if this area is used to organize women under some structured group, maybe, or institution. Or those are just personal initiatives. And why podcasts? In Turkish, the content tripled in 2020, and also podcasts give us a little bit free space, free of algorithm. That's why I choose to work especially on podcasts. And another reason. The difficult situation for women's rights in Turkey, the decrease of women's rights in Turkey, and by that I mean those are very general titles, but especially abortion. Abortion is still legal in Turkey, but under certain circumstances, and it's very difficult now to have an abortion on state hospitals. It was, for example, a loss for the women movement, for the feminist movement in Turkey, but we're still, of course, fighting. And the Istanbul Convention. Turkey is not anymore a part of Istanbul Convention. We are not even sure if it's something conform to legal procedure, but it is the case. And this is in that environment. I think maybe the podcast can be an alternative place for women, especially with the difficulty to demonstrate on public space since 2013 with the Gezi protestations, with the resistance of June, maybe you remember. But since then, it's more and more difficult to be present in public spaces. And public spheres also, but this is another discussion. What I did, I made a research on Spotify with the keywords feminist and feminism, the Turkish version of feminism. It's so similar. Why I choose Spotify? Because this is the most used application of podcast in Turkey. This is the reason. But of course, we can enlarge these applications with Google Podcasts, etc. Even though this is not specified here, I looked at in these areas also, and I didn't since I didn't find something more, so I limited myself with Spotify. There were some difficulties, the technical limits of Spotify, and that difficulty reflects also doing research on the podcast area. What is this technical limits? Mainly it was the language. I cannot choose the language of podcasts, and so you will see I had to look at to a lot of podcasts to pick the podcasts in Turkish. And I was planning to conduct some interviews with the producers, but to do so properly, I had to have some permission from my university, and the process was not so short. That's why this part now, unfortunately, excludes the interviews that I will make with producers. However, since I studied the first publications, the first episodes of the podcasts with the keywords feminist and feminism, it gives us a certain idea about the why they are using podcasts. So as you can see, I had 34 results with the keyword feminism, 12 in Turkish, others not, and one presented by a man, and it was just one episode, so I excluded that. But with feminist, with the keyword feminist, there were 1,000 results. Only 15 were supposed to be in Turkish, but when I go further, I observed that one of the podcasts was in Azerbaijanese, so it was excluded also. So after the elimination of the repeated podcasts, I had 22 podcasts in Turkish. You can see the number of episodes. And finally, with this, sorry, I have a little technical problem with my keyboard. After that, with 22 podcasts, it was not a podcast. It was just a record of noise for 1 minute. But it was there, and the explanation contains the term, the keywords. This is one of the examples. This is not the only example, but one of the examples that shows us, since it was for YouTube in a while, podcast area is a kind of garbage. We are some initiatives. But we are not following these initiatives, but it stays there. This is just an example of that kind. 7 have less than 5 publications, and one it was a gender-based analysis. It was realized by feminist researchers, male researchers, in fact. But reserved only 19 pop music, so since the subject was very particular, I excluded that also, and I had 13 podcasts on my hand to analyze. So you can see the banners of the podcasts with purple color, the symbol of feminism, but also other colors. The subjects, the podcasts talk about a lot of things, about everything. Sport, media, manhood, Islam and feminism, which is an important subject also in Turkey. A subject that exists in our daily basis in the feminist movement. And one of the interesting thing was that there were only two podcasts about 5th of March. Mainly, of course, they were talking about, but it wasn't the main subject. So I thought that it was an I'll say interesting thing. LGBTIQ related subjects were present. They were talking about transfeminism, for example, or political lesbianism, and the presence of the LGBTIQ people in feminist movement in Turkey. Sexuality, health, body, and relationships, marriage, motherhood were, however, the subjects most treated in the podcasts. So, in fact, those are conclusions. Why using podcasts? For some of these podcasts, the objective, I'm claiming that the objective is to archive, maybe for a younger public, is also to give access to some public who had not the chance to participate to face-to-face organizations. This is when I say that the two podcasts, Feminist Mekanda Cuma Buluşmaları 40 Yama Kadın Dayanışması, those were not programs made in the podcast in the podcast spirit. Those were records of some face-to-face reunions within women discussing some subjects, and Spotify is only just another area to publish this records. I will talk later about Fiskosmoses. Giving voice to others, it was another subject. What does it mean? It means that the other women talked about themselves, the students of universities, and there was a series, for example, about how I became feminist. Stories of women included on the feminist movement, but age differences, for example, class differences, so it was different voices of different women of the movement. And transmission of information, explanation of some terms like gaslighting, mansplaining, etc. And sharing ideas, experiences without a specific intention, but because eventual consequences can be, for example, raising consciousness, empowerment of the woman, and the solidarity between women, because the personal is politic, and all of these podcasts were about personal and political things, parts, subjects related to women condition. I listened the whole episodes of one podcast, and based on that, but also I listened other podcasts, but not the whole programs. But with Delasie, I did that. I observed that it is for personal podcasts, the friendship is really important. The trust is really important. There are discussions, but those are not discussions that exclude someone, or that everyone wants to underline her opinion, etc. There is really a solidarity between the participants, between the producers of the podcast, and I'm questioning if it is not the case, how it would be. Yeah, this is a question. So there is a problem. There is a technical learning process. The women are generally not familiar with podcasts, so there are some sound issues, some recording problems, etc. Discussing politics via personal stories, I talked about that. There are references to other publications, not podcasts, but websites, other organizations, feminist organizations, LGBTIQ organizations. So it shows us that there is somehow an interaction between these podcasts and the offline life of the producers, the other components of different movements. There is a weak interaction with the listeners, but there is an intention, and there are some Instagram accounts, some mails, and the listeners are invited to contribute somehow to the discussion. But this is not a very strong point of the podcasts. I think I have to finish.
2 minutes.
Yes?
2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes left.
I'll go very fast. The only concrete interaction was between two podcasts. The karın ağrısı, it's difficult to, it's all in Turkish, sorry. But this program had his first publication in October 2019. And Deli Asiye was 1 month later. However, we see that at the 6th episode of Deli Asiye instructed the producers of the other podcasts to make better podcasts. And the second publication of these podcasts dates March 2020. And after that, there were much more regular episodes. So we can say that the workshop made by one of the producers of Deli Asiye permits other producers to be present better in that podcast area. And the podcast area was also used to go out the boundaries of the academic work. Fiskos Masası is especially a result of an academic course and a master course about feminism. And Deli Asiye also underlines that they are women from academic, but they want to be present in not only in academic. So maybe I can stop there to not yeah. I have a lot of things to say, but maybe it will wait for discussion part.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Thank you.
It's okay. I wish to thank you for your presentation, because as you know,